you give up your manhood? I've never seen somebody recover from it. That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You have a greater desire than being a man.
Which was the most ridiculous thing ever.
Because you barely know.
This is the most ridiculous thing ever. But again, welcome to being a celebrity. Welcome to my world.
What Terrence Howard said about Diddy wanting to F him has got a lot of people for his head, and one of those people is Diddy's old buddy Cuba Gooding Jr., and trust, he has some strong words for Terrence. Now, we all know that Cuba and Diddy been really close so much, so that Cuba got dragged into a lawsuit involving Diddy, and was accused of trying to hook up with one of the men present ever. Since then, Cuba Gooding has been trying to save what's left of his career and reputation, and what Terrence said just got more people pointing fingers at him, and he ain't having it. So this started after Terrence came clean about the pressures of being a man in Hollywood. Terrence has had a few loose screws over the years, but what he had to say resonated with people. One of the craziest things he talked about was how he had to escape from Diddy after became really consistent with trying to lay with him.
Asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at it. Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music. He's sitting there, he's looking at it, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to. That's what my assistant said. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. So now no more communication. Now you know to be.
Separating himself from Diddy cost him a lot of opportunities, but he had to do it to maintain his integrity and keep the part of him that made him a man. While he was talking Terrence through a sneak diss at the men with close ties to Diddy, men like Cuba, he didn't isolate his experience to Diddy alone. He confirmed that a lot of men had to give up their manhood just to get some connections and privileges in Hollywood.
My whole thing, and I've lost businesses because I don't bend over in that way. I don't compromise. I don't play gay role. I don't kiss a man. I don't do that because the man caught me.
Social media went crazy. Everyone had something to say. Some supported Terrence for coming clean about the real situation, but others blasted him and said it was better that he kept his mouth shut. Of course, Terrence wasted no time responding and wasn't going to take back anything he said because it was true. He said that if anyone wanted to call him a liar or speak against him, then they better do it with the same courage and conviction he used to say the truth.
It's not a shield for character assassination. So here's the simple truth. If you take my words, my image, my ideas, and twist them to feed your fear and inflate your ego, if you profit off of my name while calling me a liar, then be prepared to stand behind your accusations. Because in the old world, men didn't hide behind anything. When they spoke against someone, they had to speak it with their whole being.
Diddy's trial started on May 5th this year, and everyone is watching and waiting to see which celebs will be named first in the infamous FBI-compiled Diddy list. Some celebs have already had their reputation affected a bit once the charges against Diddy dropped, and what Terrence said opened a can of worms, and immediately got people pointing fingers at those men who were around Diddy and now have either left the country or gone completely MIA, because let's be real, has anyone heard from Stevie J or Cuba Gooding in a while? Cuba might not look like a lot right now, but back in the 90s his name was up there with Will Smith. He managed to make his way to mainstream Hollywood after successful roles in big movies. He actually won an Oscar for his role in Jerry Maguire, and it looked like he was going to be one of the few black men to really break through and make it big in Hollywood, but along the line, Cuba fell off big time because of his addiction and his love for chasing Becky's, and it didn't take long to show that there was some truth in what people were saying. Cuba was slapped with lawsuit after lawsuit. In 2013, Cuba had no choice but to settle a civil lawsuit accusing him of R-wording a woman. Authorities also confirmed that he'd been accused by more than 30 other women of SA, and what we were seeing was just the tip of the iceberg in 2022. Cuba was dragged to court again and pleaded guilty to misdemeanor, leading to him undergoing 6 months of alcohol and behavioral counseling. Cuba tried to get back into Hollywood, but none of the big names would touch him at all. He tried to rebrand, claiming that his challenges had led him to find religion and that he's been walking a different path ever since.
How's your faith? How has it helped you through those dark times?
It's one of those things where I know that I'm here for a reason. And I know that as long as I do what I do and I'm good at what I do and I'm passionate about what I do, God.
But that's what all these celebs do when they have something deeper to hide, and it didn't take long for us to find out why Cuba was suddenly pushing this religious personality of his so seriously, because the Diddy lawsuits exposed everything Cuba was trying to hide to everybody's surprise. Lil Rod named Cuba Gooding Jr. in his lawsuit against Diddy. He accused Cuba of harassing him and mistreating him on one of Diddy's yacht parties back in 2023. That was when we realized that Cuba not only liked messing with women, he also had a thing for men, just like Diddy. According to the lawsuit, Diddy was G.I. Rod and was going to pass off Lil Rod to Cuba like a toy to be played with. Cuba began touching Lil Rod's legs and thighs, and there were also pictures supporting these claims. Lil Rod explained that Diddy was somewhere watching this all go down and didn't even bother to step in and stop all this from happening. Cuba clapped back fast. He jumped on interviews denying everything in the lawsuit, calling it nonsense and a waste of time.
It says that I had my shoulder on him and all this stuff, making it look sordid. Well, that picture, everyone in the room, there's probably 300 of us on the deck of P. Diddy's, I'm gonna show you, on P. Diddy's boat, New Year's Eve. I went from one ship, Happy New Year. So I hung out with Tyson, and next ship, there's Drake. This ship had P. Diddy. He had his guy, his videographer, they're listening to music. And he says, hey, Cube, listen, you want to hear P. Diddy's new song? I said, yeah, sure. Sit down next to him. They didn't use this angle, which to me makes me laugh, because I go, oh, I get it. You made it look the way you wanted it to look. But this guy who's suing him went after the money, man. I'm sure. And by the way, I don't know P. Diddy's life. I don't know what he's going through. I don't know what the police are going to find out on all of that.
Were you guys close? Were you guys friends, or?
We were acquaintances, just like I just showed you. 2-3 times I've seen him, so it's...
Oh, so Diddy, you've only seen him 2 or 3 times.
That's what I'm saying!
The more he tried to explain, the more it became obvious that he was one of those who couldn't tell Diddy no. He couldn't complete a single train of thought, and from the nervous vibe he gave off, people could tell that he definitely had something to hide that he didn't want getting out there. Now that Diddy has officially fallen from grace and his fate is about to be decided in the court trial, a lot of people tied to him have been nervous behind the scenes, wondering whose name is going to be dragged in. Cuba's name has already been mentioned in Lil Rod's lawsuit, and it really wouldn't be that surprising if he gets exposed more. And now with Terrence getting so vocal about it, Cuba, who is also known for Terrence for years, is calling him a liar. Report says Cuba believes that Terrence is just trying to seek clout by jumping on the Diddy hate train. But let's be real, when you put everything together, the lawsuits, the pictures, it destroys whatever narrative Cuba is trying to portray. One thing's for sure, this story is just beginning, and as always, the internet has a lot to say. What if Cuba Gooding Jr. was being himself in radio, but has been acting like a regular person his whole life? This was not a good move on Cuba's part. He thought he'd convince people he's not guilty, but the exact opposite happened. He looks and sounds like he's been stressing Terrence Howard, literally seen it all and done it all in Hollywood. Y'all laugh at him now, but at least he one of the few brothers who didn't sell his. But I want to know what you think about this. All share your thoughts in the comments, and if you thought this was wild, click the next video to dive into more insanity.